Welcome back to The Guilty Files, the podcast where every case gets a second look, a deeper dive, and two distinct takes that keep you coming back for more. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm here to bring you the unfiltered, no-nonsense breakdown of this week's crime. A little about me. I've spent 16 years in law enforcement, with 10 of those years pounding the pavement as a beat cop in the streets of Atlanta. I've seen crime up close, the chaos, the aftermath, and the cold, hard truths that never make the headlines. That's why my focus is simple. I'll take you through the facts of the case, step by step, with nothing left to speculation. But that's only half of what we do here. My co-host Danny is your guide to the other side of the story. He dives into the untold possibilities, uncovers hidden motives, and imagines the what-ifs that make you question everything you thought you knew. Together, we bring you two unique perspectives on every case. Because in true crime, the truth is rarely as simple as it seems. Every week, we promise you this: 2 cops, 1 crime, 2 stories told. If you're a fan of the details, the drama, and the darker side of human nature, you're in for a ride. So grab your headphones, lock the door, and let's get into The Guilty Files, where every case comes with a twist, and the truth is just the beginning. Born on October 23, 1943, Michael Ivor Peterson is a renowned American author who was found guilty in 2003 for the murder of his second wife, Kathleen Peterson, on December 9, 2001. After serving 8 years in prison, Peterson was granted a retrial when the judge determined that a key prosecution witness had provided misleading testimony. In 2017, Peterson entered an offered plea to a lesser charge of manslaughter. An offered plea is a guilty plea in a criminal case where the defendant maintains their innocence but accepts the sentence. The plea is named after the 1970 Supreme Court case, North Carolina v. Alford, which ruled that there are no constitutional barriers to a judge accepting an offered plea. He was released, having already served his sentence. The Peterson case is the focus of the French documentary series The Staircase, which began filming shortly after his arrest in 2001 and continued until his offered plea in 2017. In 2019, Peterson published his own account of his life after his wife's death in a self-published memoir, Behind the Staircase. The Staircase, a 2022 miniseries starring Colin Firth and Toni Collette, also explores the murder case and its aftermath. Kathleen's death has been the subject of several other documentaries, including a sequel to the 2004 French documentary, podcasts, radio shows, and other media. Michael Peterson was born near Nashville, Tennessee, to parents Eugene Ivor Peterson and Eleanor Peterson. He earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Duke University. During his time at Duke, Peterson served as president of the Sigma Nu fraternity and was editor of the Chronicle, the daily student newspaper, from 1964 to 1965. He also attended law school at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. After graduation, Peterson worked as a civilian for the United States Department of Defense, where he was tasked with researching arguments in favor of increased military involvement in Vietnam. That same year, he married Patricia Sue, an elementary school teacher at the Rhine-Main Air Base in Grafenhausen, West Germany. The couple had 2 children, Clayton and Todd. In 1968, Peterson joined the United States Marine Corps and served in the Vietnam War. He was honorably discharged in 1971 with the rank of captain after a car accident resulted in a permanent disability. During the 1999 Durham mayoral election, Peterson claimed to have been awarded a Silver Star, a Bronze Star with Valor, and 2 Purple Hearts. He had the medals but lacked the documentation for them. Peterson stated that he received 1 Purple Heart after being hit by shrapnel when another soldier stepped on a landmine, and the other when he was shot. He later confessed that his war injury was not due to the shrapnel wound in Vietnam, but was the result of a car accident in Japan, where he was stationed post-war as a military police officer. The News and Observer reported that records did not mention the 2 Purple Hearts that Peterson claimed to have received. Peterson and his first wife, Patricia, resided in Germany for a while, where they became close friends with Elizabeth and George Ratliff and their 2 children, Margaret and Martha. After George's death, the Peterson and Ratliff families grew even closer. When Elizabeth Ratliff passed away in 1985, Michael became the guardian of her 2 children. After Michael and Patricia divorced in 1987, Clayton and Todd lived with Patricia, while Margaret and Martha stayed with Michael, who then relocated to Durham, North Carolina. Clayton and Todd later joined their father. In 1989, Michael moved in with Kathleen Atwater, a successful Nortel business executive. They married in 1997, and Kathleen's daughter Caitlin became the 5th sibling in the Bellended family. Peterson authored 3 novels based on his experiences during the Vietnam War: The Immortal Dragon, A Time of War, and A Bitter Peace. He co-authored the biography Charlie Two Shoes and the Marines of Love Company with journalist David Perlmutt, and co-wrote Operation Broken Reed with Arthur L. Boyd. Peterson also worked as a newspaper columnist for the Herald-Sun, where his columns were known for their criticism of the police and Durham County District Attorney James Hardin, Jr., who later prosecuted Peterson for the murder of his second wife, Kathleen. On December 9, 2001, Peterson dialed 911 to report that he had found Kathleen Peterson unconscious in their Forest Hills home in Durham, North Carolina, suspecting she had fallen down 15 to 20 stairs. He later stated that he had been outside by the pool and had come in at 2:40 a.m. to find Kathleen at the foot of the stairs. Peterson suggested she must have fallen down the stairs after consuming alcohol and Valium. Toxicology reports revealed that Kathleen's blood alcohol content was 0.07%, and she had taken between 5 and 15 milligrams of Valium. The autopsy report concluded that the 48-year-old woman had sustained a series of severe injuries, including a fracture of the superior corner of the thyroid cartilage and 7 lacerations to the top and back of her head, consistent with blows from a blunt object. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. Forensic specialist Henry Lee, who was employed by Peterson's defense team, argued that the blood spatter evidence suggested an accidental fall down the stairs. However, law enforcement investigators disagreed, stating that the injuries didn't align with such an accident. Given that Peterson was the only individual present at the time of Kathleen's death, he quickly became the primary suspect and was subsequently charged with her murder. He maintained his innocence. Medical examiner Deborah Radish concluded that Kathleen's death was due to scalp lacerations from a violent attack. Radish stated that the 7 lacerations on Kathleen's head were inflicted by a light but rigid weapon. The defense team disputed this, arguing that the lacerations didn't align with any kind of blows due to the absence of underlying injuries like skull fractures or brain bruising, swelling, and hemorrhaging. The trial gained media attention as Peterson's private life was scrutinized. The prosecution team, including Hardin and Mike Niffon, questioned Peterson's credibility, focusing on his alleged misrepresentation of his military service and his secret gay lifestyle. They suggested that Peterson's marriage was unhappy and that Kathleen had discovered his secret, leading her to want a divorce. This was the primary motive presented by the prosecution for Kathleen's alleged murder, with the secondary motive laid out by Assistant District Attorney Frida Black, who stated that Kathleen would have been enraged upon discovering her husband's bisexuality, an extramarital affair with a man, which would have been humiliating for her. The prosecution believed that this revelation led to an argument and subsequent homicide. The defense countered this, arguing that Kathleen was aware and accepting of Michael's bisexuality, and that their marriage was happy, a claim supported by their children and friends. The prosecution suggested that Kathleen was likely killed with a custom-made fireplace poker, a gift from Kathleen's sister, which was missing from the house during the investigation. The defense later produced the missing poker, claiming it had been overlooked in the garage by investigators. Forensic tests showed it had been untouched for too long to have been used in the murder. A juror later stated that the jury had dismissed the idea of the poker being the murder weapon. Elizabeth Ratliff, a friend of the Petersons who died in Germany in 1985, was also found dead at the bottom of her staircase with head injuries. Her death was initially attributed to a blood coagulation disorder, known as von Willebrand's disease. However, before Peterson's trial, Ratliff's body was exhumed for a second autopsy, which concluded her death was a homicide. The prosecution didn't accuse Peterson of Ratliff's death, but used it in the trial to suggest Peterson knew how to stage Kathleen's accident. In 2002, Caitlin, acting as the administrator of Kathleen's estate, filed a wrongful death claim against Peterson. In 2006, Peterson filed for bankruptcy, but just 2 weeks later, Caitlin objected to the bankruptcy. In 2007, Caitlin and Peterson settled the wrongful death claim for $25 million, which was finalized by the court in 2008. On October 10, 2003, following one of North Carolina's most protracted trials, a Durham County jury convicted Peterson of Kathleen's murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a sentence that necessitates premeditation. Although the jury deemed the murder an impulsive act, they also concluded it was premeditated. A juror clarified that premeditation could involve planning just seconds before committing a crime of passion. Peterson was incarcerated at the Nash Correctional Institution near Rocky Mount until his release on December 16, 2011. Peterson's appeal, filed by his defense counsel with Thomas Mayer as his court-appointed lawyer, was presented to the North Carolina Court of Appeals on April 18, 2006. On September 19th, the Court of Appeals dismissed Peterson's claims of an unfair trial due to continuous judicial errors. The appeals verdict stated that the evidence was justly admitted. Although the judges identified flaws in a search warrant, they asserted these had no adverse impact on the defense. As the ruling was not unanimous, Peterson was entitled to appeal to the North Carolina Supreme Court under state law. The Supreme Court accepted the case, and an oral argument was heard on September 10, 2007. On November 9th, the court confirmed the decision of the appeals. Unless the ruling was reconsidered or a federal issue was raised, Peterson had exhausted his appeal options. On November 12, 2008, Peterson's new attorneys, J. Burkhart Beal and Jason Anthony of Richmond, Virginia, filed a motion for a new trial in Durham County Court on 3 grounds: the prosecution's withholding of exculpatory evidence about the blowpoke, the disputed qualifications of the prosecution's expert witness, and a juror's racially influenced judgment. On March 10, 2009, the Durham County Superior Court denied Peterson's motion. In late 2009, a new theory about Kathleen's death emerged. It was suggested that she was attacked by a barred owl outside, rushed inside, fell, and was knocked unconscious after hitting her head on the first stair tread. This theory was proposed by Durham attorney T. Lawrence Pollard, a Peterson neighbor who was not involved in the case, but had been tracking the public details. He suggested to the police that an owl might have been responsible after reading the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation evidence list and noticing the feather. Peterson's attorneys discovered that the SBI crime lab report listed a microscopic owl feather and a wooden splinter from a tree limb tangled in a clump of hair, ripped out from the roots, found in Kathleen's left hand. A re-examination of the hair in September 2008 revealed 2 more microscopic owl feathers. Pollard argued that if the jury had been presented with this evidence, it would have significantly influenced their deliberations and verdict. Prosecutors dismissed the claim, and Deborah Radish, who performed Kathleen's autopsy, stated it was improbable that an owl or any other bird could have inflicted wounds as deep as those on her scalp. However, Radish's opinion was contested by other experts in 3 separate affidavits filed in 2010. Despite some external interest in this theory, no motion for a new trial was filed on this basis in 2009. On March 2, 2017, Peterson's lawyer filed a motion to permit him to pay for a bird expert at the Smithsonian Institution to examine feather fragments found in Kathleen's hair to determine whether she had been attacked by an owl. In August 2010, after a series of newspaper articles criticizing the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, or SBI, North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper ordered an independent review of the agency. The audit found that the SBI had misreported evidence in about 200 cases, including 3 that resulted in executions. As a result, Peterson's defense team filed a motion for a new trial in December 2010, citing the SBI's blood analysis in the case as one of the reasons. Dwayne Deaver, a blood spatter analyst for the SBI, was a pivotal figure in Michael Peterson's trial for the murder of his wife, Kathleen. Deaver testified for the prosecution, claiming that the blood patterns on the walls and stairs of the Peterson home were consistent with a person being beaten to death. His analysis was central to the case's narrative of foul play. During his testimony, Deaver stated he had been mentored by SBI bloodstain specialist David Spittle, worked on 500 bloodstain cases, authored 200 reports, and testified in 60 trials. However, during Peterson's retrial hearing, these claims were challenged. SBI Assistant Director Eric Hooks revealed that Deaver had only written 47 reports and testified in just 4 bloodstain cases, with the Peterson case being his third. In 2010, an investigation led by North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper uncovered widespread issues within the SBI, including Deaver's role in several flawed criminal cases. These included instances where he provided false evidence or withheld critical information. The revelations severely damaged the credibility of his work and had far-reaching implications for the cases he was involved in. Deaver was fired from the SBI in 2011. He contested his termination, claiming it was wrongful, but in August 2014, a judge upheld the decision. Later that year, the North Carolina Human Resources Commission, NCHR, ruled that while Deaver should have been demoted and received a 10% pay reduction instead of outright termination, his dismissal was ultimately justified after it was determined he had committed perjury. The NCHR ordered the SBI to pay Deaver 34 months of back wages. After leaving the SBI, Deaver continued working in the criminal justice and related fields. According to his LinkedIn profile, he is now the Director of Operations at ISS facilities in Texas. Prior to this, he served as Director of Environmental Services for Aramark Healthcare in Philadelphia until 2015. After his termination in 2011, an independent audit of the SBI found that Deaver had falsely represented evidence in 34 cases, including withholding negative results in the case of Greg Taylor, a North Carolina man who spent 17 years in prison on a murder conviction based on Deaver's testimony. In addition, Spittle testified that he could not recall mentoring Deaver, who since completing a 2-day training course in the 1980s, had testified in only 4 cases. The SBI cited the bloodstain analysis given in the 4th case as the reason for firing Deaver. On December 16, 2011, Peterson was released from the Durham County Jail on a $300,000 bail and placed under house arrest with a tracking anklet. His release on bond followed a judicial order for a new trial after Judge Hudson found that Deaver had given materially misleading and deliberately false testimony about bloodstain evidence and had exaggerated his training, experience, and expertise. Former North Carolina Attorney General Rufus L. Edmondson said that any evidence gathered after Deaver arrived at the scene might be deemed inadmissible in a new trial. In July 2014, Peterson's bond restrictions were eased. In October 2014, the court appointed Mike Klinkasem to represent Peterson, replacing David Rudolph, who had been working pro bono on the case since Peterson's conviction was overturned. Rudolph had stated that he could no longer afford to represent Peterson without being paid. On November 14, 2016, Peterson's request for the second trial to be dismissed was refused, and a new trial was scheduled to begin on May 8, 2017. However, a news report on February 7, 2017 indicated that a resolution had been negotiated by Rudolph and the Durham County District Attorney. On February 24, 2017, Peterson entered an offered plea to the voluntary manslaughter of Kathleen. The judge sentenced him to a maximum of 86 months in prison, with credit for time previously served. Because Peterson had already served more time than the sentence, he did not face additional prison time. The court case generated widespread interest, in part because of a televised documentary series variously named Death on the Staircase and The Staircase, which detailed Peterson's legal and personal troubles. 8 45-minute episodes of the documentary were assembled from more than 600 hours of footage. It was directed by French filmmaker Jean-Xavier de Lestrade and released by Maha Productions in October 2004. The documentary offers an intimate depiction of defense preparations for the trial. It also examines the role and behavior of the press as it covered aspects of the case. The filmmakers started their project within weeks of Kathleen's death and Peterson's murder indictment. Jury selection took place in May 2003, with the case itself going to trial in July 2003. Following the guilty verdict, the Lestrade interviewed the jurors to find out why they reached their verdict. By and large, the jurors were swayed by the amount of blood Kathleen lost and the number of lacerations, which indicated to them it could not have been an accident. Henry Lee, however, had testified at the trial that the amount of blood was irrelevant. As the blood spatter indicated, most of it was spattered as she coughed as the blood ran down her face from the injuries. He also suggested some of the blood could have been diluted with urine. Lee had also duplicated blood spatter from coughing for the jury by drinking ketchup and spitting it out. In November 2012, the Lestrade released a sequel, The Staircase 2, The Last Chance, which premiered at the International Documentary Film Festival in Amsterdam. The film documents Peterson's family and his legal team's arguments in seeking a retrial, in which they succeed. Many may wonder, after watching the popular Netflix series The Staircase and the HBO miniseries, where are some of the main characters now, and what are their thoughts on how they were portrayed? Currently, Michael Peterson, now 79, resides alone in a ground-floor apartment in Durham, North Carolina. He has since sold the home he once shared with Kathleen. He returned to his writing career and published 2 books in 2019 and 2020, titled Behind the Staircase and Beyond the Staircase, respectively, where he shares his version of events. As he is legally prohibited from profiting from his crime, the earnings from his books are donated to charity. Peterson has largely remained out of the public eye. He expressed dissatisfaction with the HBO Max miniseries and felt deceived by documentarian Jean-Xavier de Lestrade. In a series of emails to Variety, he accused Lestrade of exploiting him and his family. However, he acknowledges that Lestrade's work played a crucial role in his release from prison. During a recent conversation with the Wrongful Conviction podcast, he discussed the impact of the documentary on his trial and criticized the HBO miniseries, labeling it as an abomination and accusing Campos of ruining his family's life. Despite this, he concedes that his case has all the elements of a compelling true crime drama. He said, "Now we have the real thing: sex, money, and murder. The Michael Peterson case. Instead of viewing a fictionalized account, we witness the actual events. This has led to the creation of other real-life programs. It's tragic that there's this insatiable desire people have for sex, murder, and money. It's now an ingrained part of our culture." Throughout the entire case, Michael's son Todd Peterson remained steadfastly by his father's side, navigating each unexpected twist and turn. His character in The Staircase was mirrored in his real-life persona, as he built a robust social media following. However, following the release of the HBO miniseries, his Instagram account has been deactivated. Prior to his sudden disappearance from social media, he had a change of heart regarding his father's role in Kathleen's demise. In a live stream that has since been posted on YouTube, he accuses his father, Michael, of not only killing Kathleen, but also his mother, Patricia, and a family friend named Elizabeth. Todd alleges that Michael delayed calling 911 for 3 hours while Patricia was suffering a heart attack. He also accuses his father of infidelity, claiming he cheated on Patricia with Kathleen. Despite his newfound belief in his father's guilt, Todd still dismisses The Staircase as nonsense. Residing in Baltimore, Maryland, Clayton Peterson, the lesser-known son of Michael, has managed to rebuild his life after serving a 4-year prison sentence for an attempted bombing at Duke University. which occurred years prior to Kathleen Peterson's tragic demise. Clayton has successfully pursued a career as an engineer, showcasing his resilience and determination. Despite his connection to the infamous case, Clayton has chosen to maintain a low profile, never uttering a word about the enigmatic events surrounding the staircase. Clayton remains happily married to his wife, Becky, and together they are raising their 2 children, cherishing the joys of family life away from the public eye. Margaret Ratliff, the eldest daughter of Air Force Captain George Ratliff and his wife, Elizabeth. They were a close-knit family living next door to Michael and Patty Peterson in Germany. Tragedy struck when George lost his life during an overseas operation in 1983. Devastatingly, Elizabeth also passed away under suspicious circumstances, mirroring the mysterious death of Kathleen. The situation became so perplexing that Elizabeth's body was exhumed during Michael's trial. Hoping to uncover evidence of foul play, after Elizabeth's untimely demise, Margaret and her younger sister Martha found solace in the arms of the Petersons, who adopted them. However, as life unfolded, Michael and Patty divorced, leading Margaret and Martha to reside with Michael and Kathleen, whom they lovingly referred to as Mom in the United States. Today, Margaret resides in California, immersing herself in the entertainment industry, wearing multiple hats as an actor, assistant director, and production manager. Even before her family's involvement in the infamous case, Margaret harbored a deep passion for pursuing a career in film. Little did she know that in 2002, when Lestrade and his crew approached her family, her life would become a constant spectacle in the public eye for decades to come. In a candid interview with Vanity Fair, Margaret revealed that Lestrade's documentary series The Staircase had cost her numerous job opportunities within the documentary world, including potential collaborations with Netflix. Despite the challenges, Margaret persevered and recently co-produced a thought-provoking documentary titled Subject, directed by Jennifer Taxier and Camilla Hall. The film delves into the ethical dilemmas of documentary filmmaking. It premiered at the prestigious Tribeca Film Festival, showcasing Margaret's talent and dedication. Both Margaret and Michael were featured as interviewees, sharing their unique perspectives. However, unlike other members of her family, Margaret claims to have received no financial compensation from HBO and feels deceived by Campos, who allegedly promised a more balanced focus on the documentarists rather than solely on the Petersons. The tragic death of Elizabeth Ratliff had a profound and lasting effect on her youngest daughter, Martha Ratliff. Following the untimely passing of Kathleen Peterson, Martha found herself grappling with a severe and debilitating form of anxiety, exacerbated by her father Michael's highly publicized legal battles. In the renowned docuseries by Lestrade, Martha courageously opens up about her struggles with mental health, shedding light on the profound impact of these events on her life. Today, Martha resides in Colorado, where she has channeled her personal experiences into a meaningful career as a psychotherapist. Drawing from her own journey, she dedicates herself to helping individuals who face similar challenges, providing them with the support and guidance needed to navigate their own mental health battles. Martha's empathetic nature and firsthand understanding make her a beacon of hope for those in need, as she continues to make a positive difference in the lives of others. Caitlin Atwater, the biological daughter of Kathleen Peterson, stands as the sole child from the Peterson household who firmly believes in Michael's responsibility for her mother's tragic demise. Despite the passage of time, Caitlin remains estranged from her step-siblings, maintaining a separate life with her husband and twin children in Virginia. In 2002, Caitlin took a bold step by filing a civil wrongful death lawsuit against Michael, seeking justice for her mother. After a lengthy legal battle, they eventually reached a settlement in 2007, amounting to $25 million. However, given the significant strain the trial had placed on Michael's finances, it remains uncertain whether he ever fulfilled the full payment. To safeguard against any potential financial gains Michael might make from the case following his release in 2017, Caitlin's lawyer filed another complaint against him. This action aimed to discourage him from profiting off the tragedy, ensuring that justice and the memory of Kathleen Peterson remain the focal points rather than any monetary gains. David Rudolph, the former defense attorney for Michael Peterson, has embarked on a new chapter in his life. He is happily married to journalist Sonia Pfeiffer and recently relocated to Toronto in 2021. There, he has joined ab-esteemed litigation and corporate law firm, while still maintaining his connection to his own firm, Rudolph Weidenhaus. In addition to his legal pursuits, Rudolph and Pfeiffer are the proud owners of the Elder Gallery of Contemporary Art, located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Together, they also host a thought-provoking podcast called Abuse of Power, which sheds light on the stories of individuals who have been victimized by the justice system. This topic is also at the heart of Rudolph's new book, American Injustice: Inside Stories from the Underbelly of the Criminal Justice System, released in 2022. While Rudolph remains dedicated to seeking justice, he has expressed his dissatisfaction with the portrayal of events in the show, particularly regarding his professional relationship with Pfeiffer, and the suggestion that Michael withheld information from him. In an interview with Variety, he voiced his concerns about his characterization, specifically referencing a scene where he and Michael share a conversation over a pastrami sandwich, humorously remarking that a Jewish lawyer from New York could have been added as a blimp above his head. Although not formally part of the defense team, Bill Peterson, Michael's brother, played a pivotal role in securing his brother's release from jail. As a lawyer himself, Bill took charge of the Peterson family's legal affairs and made significant contributions to Michael's defense. It was Bill who recommended David Rudolph as a defense attorney, a decision that proved instrumental in the case. Following Michael's release, Bill returned to Reno, Nevada, where he now resides with his family. He continues to practice law as a partner in a reputable local firm, offering a range of comprehensive legal services to the community. Patty Peterson, despite the trials and tribulations, remained a steadfast supporter of her ex-husband, Michael Peterson. She not only stood by his side throughout the legal proceedings, but also welcomed him into her home after his release. Together, they resided in Durham until Patty's untimely passing in 2021 due to a heart attack. However, the circumstances surrounding her death have been shrouded in mystery and controversy. Patty's son, Todd, has made allegations against Michael, claiming that he delayed calling 911 for over 3 hours after realizing Patty was unwell. Todd suggests that financial motives may have influenced this delay. Since Patty's tragic demise, Todd's perspective on his father's involvement in Kathleen's death has shifted. He now believes that Michael may have been responsible not only for the death of his stepmother, but also for the death of Elizabeth Ratliff. The situation surrounding Patty's death and the evolving beliefs of Todd have added further complexity to an already intricate and tragic series of events. The truth remains elusive, leaving unanswered questions and a lingering sense of uncertainty. Candace Samperini, one of Kathleen's outspoken sisters, played a significant role in the prosecution's case by presenting them with what was believed to be the murder weapon, a fireplace poker, also known as a blowpoke, that she had gifted to the Petersons for Christmas. However, in the present day, Candace chooses to lead a more private and low-key life, preferring to stay away from the spotlight. Residing in Alexandria, Virginia, Candace embraces a quiet and peaceful existence, away from the public eye. She has distanced herself from the high-profile events surrounding the case, focusing on personal matters and finding solace in a more secluded lifestyle. Dwayne Deaver, at the time of Kathleen Peterson's death, served as a blood spatter analyst for the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. As you may recall, during Michael Peterson's trial, Deaver testified that the blood spatters found at the scene were consistent with a person being beaten to death. He claimed to have worked on 500 bloodstain cases, presenting himself as an experienced expert in the field. However, Deaver's credibility and professional conduct were called into question following the wrongful conviction of Greg Taylor in 1993 for the murder of Jaquetta Thomas. It was revealed that Deaver had exaggerated the number of cases he had worked on and lacked proper forensic training. Additionally, he was found guilty of lab misconduct. As a result, Deaver was terminated from his position at the SBI in 2011. Deaver attempted to contest his firing, but his termination was upheld in court in 2014. Following Michael Peterson's conviction, Frida Black, the former assistant district attorney, made a significant career change. In the years that followed, she left the legal profession and took on work as a cleaner. Despite her previous experience and dedication, Black faced challenges in her pursuit of public office. She ran for district attorney in both 2006 and 2008, but was unsuccessful in securing the position. Additionally, her campaign for the Durham County District Court did not yield the desired outcome. Tragically, Frida Black passed away in 2018 at the age of 57 due to end-stage liver disease. Her untimely death marked the end of a tumultuous journey, which saw her transition from a prominent legal figure to a different path in life. Despite the setbacks she faced, Black's contributions to the legal field and her involvement in the high-profile Peterson case remain a part of her legacy. The perplexing saga surrounding Kathleen Peterson's untimely demise and the subsequent conviction of her spouse, Michael, undeniably stands out as one of the most peculiar instances in the annals of contemporary true crime. Among the masses, divergent opinions persist regarding whether her passing was a mere tragic misfortune or if Michael Peterson is, in fact, a ruthless murderer. Yet, amidst this cacophony of conjecture, the paramount question remains: where does your belief lie?